Hey now, good Wednesday afternoon. This is 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He is Dan Lucero, and we are here with you for the next hour and a half. That's it. We're done at 4:30 today. You got a half edition of 580 Sports Talk coming your way here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. We're done early because of Royals baseball. The Y'alls have been moved up to a 5:10 first pitch this afternoon. That's not even the early evening, late afternoon debate. That's just straight up the afternoon. 5:10 first pitch. Pregame begins at 4:30 on the Royals radio network right here on 580 WIBW. The game was originally set for 5:40, and then we had Game 3 of the NBA Finals tonight.
Also in Miami.
So the city smartly said, yeah, we're gonna spread out these times just a little bit.
I don't know the geography of Miami well enough to know how far apart Lone Depot Park and the Kaseya Center are. And shout out to you if you know what I'm talking about when I refer to the Kaseya Center, because I just learned that was the name of the Miami Heat Arena like a week ago. So it was FTX Arena, but you may have seen FTX in the news. And not in a good way.
Nope.
So it's not FTX Arena anymore. It is instead sponsored by a Miami-based, I think they're a software company, Kaseya. Pretty good guess. I don't think they'd get in bed with another crypto company. So
no. For what it's worth, Lone Depot Park and the Kaseya Center are 11 minutes apart.
Okay.
They are in the same neighborhood, essentially.
The basketball tips off at 8:30 Eastern tonight, so the baseball getting started at, I guess that would be 6:10 Eastern.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, I guess that gives people a chance to, you don't have as much of a clash between people will be in the ballpark while people are also making their way to the game. You don't have the congestion of traffic, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what they did. Maybe just deciding that people could watch more of the basketball game if they were also at the baseball game. I don't know. That's just what it is.
Maybe it's to mitigate some of the traffic issues. Like, all the people will be done getting to the Kaseya Center or to the bar they're going to watch the game at or whatever by the time the baseball game ends.
Yeah.
You've got the two different traffic flows. I don't know. I could not tell you. But anyway, that is why the Royals game got moved up. Also, in case you were curious, Hard Rock Stadium, where the Dolphins play, much further away because I was curious. So the Royals are starting early. We are done early today here on 580 Sports Talk, but we do have a bunch to get to in the next hour and a half that we are on the air today. We'll talk some Royals baseball. Yesterday, we focused a bunch on what sort of packages the Royals could trade away at the deadline or before the deadline, specifically centered around Aroldis Chapman. Well, what are the actual kinds of returns the Royals could get for those packages? We'll discuss that in a moment. Plus, the Royals lost again, and the offense was bad. It was not good. They scored one run on a wild pitch. Yikes. So we'll get to the Royals coming up here in just a moment. Also this hour, we'll play One Gotta Go, our usual Wednesday staple. And we'll hear from both KJ Adams and Michael Jankovich, a couple of Kansas Jayhawks. They spoke at Brett Ballard's Washburn basketball camp today. Got to chat with the two of them, and we will hear from them at the bottom of this hour. 4 o'clock hour today. Well, it's only in half an hour, so we will get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines, the final word, and then get you on to the Royals radio network this afternoon. Programming note for you, since we're done at 4:30, no Wildcat wrap-up today. Tim Fitzgerald is going to join us tomorrow. Tomorrow is our only full-length show of the week. This is the only one that is a full 3 hours, thanks to this East Coast swing for the Royals. So Rick Peterson and Tim Fitzgerald are going to join us tomorrow on 580 Sports Talk. Today, don't forget, you can be a part of the show either on the text line, you know the number, 785-272-9429, or you can check us out on YouTube, where the name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Comment section already popping off. Shout out to everybody who's chimed in already and all of you who are watching or listening along today. And we start with the Royals last night and a 6-1 loss to the Marlins. The Bard, our pal Christopher on YouTube, brings us his latest limerick. Losses exacting their toll. Mistakes have gone out of control. Fundamentals betrayed. The boys' focus has strayed. How far will they fall down this hole? The answer is as far as they possibly can until it hits something at the bottom.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's a bottom right now.
That focus specifically that Christopher mentions, Matt Quattrero talked about that after the game. That is now, in 2 games against the Marlins, 5 errors. I don't think you get the Miami flu in baseball very often, especially for a regular season series. That should not be happening at any point. That's been one of the discouraging things about this season is some of that little stuff that the Royals were so good at when they were good. Being smart on the base paths, being good in the field. Those have kind of dissipated really over the last couple of years, but especially this season. But in the grand scheme of things, if you can't pitch and you can't hit, those don't really matter a whole lot either. Tough one for the Royals yesterday. Greinke started the game pretty well, 4 scoreless innings to open the game, and then he got 1 out in the 5th inning and gave up 5 runs and didn't get out of the frame. That sucks. That's tough. And when your offense is giving you approximately bupkis, you had no chance in that game after that bad 5th inning.
Yeah, you don't win a lot of games scoring 1 run. And once again, it's kind of like we talked about yesterday. It has felt like it's just been 1 inning in recent games in particular that has undone the Royals. Last Friday, it was the 8th inning. Saturday, it was the 1st inning. A lot of times this year, it's been the dreaded 6th inning. Last night, it was the 5th inning. Greinke gives up the leadoff home run. Then back-to-back singles. There's a error in there because Edward Olivares just, man, he's at least not a converted outfielder. Like, he's been playing this position for a while. Like, on the one hand, there's a certain amount of grace I'm willing to extend guys like MJ Melendez and Nick Prado because they're not natural outfielders and they're learning the position on the fly. Like, Edward Olivares came up as an outfielder and he's still this deficient with the glove. Just simple mistakes, concentration mistakes, bad stuff. And there's nowhere else to put him. You're not going to DH him, obviously.
No.
I don't know. I don't know what you do with Edward Olivares because I think that he's probably an okay hitter, but being an okay hitter with this level of defense, that's not a big leaguer. Like, it's not.
Well, and
you better be a great hitter if you're going to be this poor with the glove.
And to that point, David Lesky, who is on with Jake and Fulton all the time on Mic'd Up, he's been on our program before too. Last night, 6:42 p.m. So we're about an hour into the game. After that mistake, Dave tweeted, "Man, Olivares has to go." And I think you want it to work for him because you can see that there's potential and you can see that there's some good stuff you can do with the bat. And there's probably still some feelings that, man, I hope it works out for him. After a couple of years ago, he spent every other 72 hours making the trip back up to Omaha. Like, part of you thinks, man, I just
a lot of injuries with him too, which have been really unfortunate and have certainly played a role in stunting his development as a player, which, that's that kind of thing is out of his control and it's disappointing, but it's also real. Like, you look at his offensive numbers, like you go to his Baseball Savant page, there's a lot of red is good. Like speed, the expected slugging, expected batting average, strikeout percentage, max exit velocity. Like, there's a lot of red on his page. He's a good athlete and he should have some better results with the bat than arguably maybe he's had to this point. But man, the defense, like, it's nice when you see that the metrics, like the nerdy stuff, matches up with what you're seeing.
Right.
He is in the 1st percentile in outfielder jump. So he gets the worst jumps on balls of any outfielder in Major League Baseball. He's in the 1st percentile. He's in the 3rd percentile in outs above average. Like, one of the most harmful defensive players in all of baseball. And you better be raking if you're going to hurt your team that much with the glove. And he's got 718 OPS. It's not bad. It's not terrible. It's not completely unplayable. But
so I'm looking right now at Fangraph's defensive run saved leaderboard, right? And we've talked about defensive run saved before many times. Edward Olivares does not qualify. He has not played enough this year to be on the qualified leaderboards. But in his unqualified amount of time, he has a -7 defensive runs saved. For what it's worth, last year, when he played plenty, he was -5. We are a week into June, and he's at -7, and that's probably not going to get better. If he was qualified, that would currently be 6th worst in all of baseball. You know who's 6th worst right now who is qualified? His own teammate, Salvador Perez. Now, catcher metrics, difficult, I understand.
Yeah,
but
a lot of Fangraphs bakes in a lot of framing metrics, which A, I don't trust, and B, in a perfect world, there would be a automated balls and strikes,
right.
and framing skills would not be a thing.
But here's what's even more concerning than the fact that Salvi is on this list. And I've got the top 30 in front of me right now. That's, they have 30 on a page. Also in the top 30, tied for 2nd worst in all of baseball, MJ Melendez, minus 11 defensive runs saved. You also, from the Kansas City Royals on this list, have Bobby Witt Jr., minus 4. Michael Massey, minus 4. Vinny Pasquantino, minus 4. All of those dudes at the same time are among the worst, least valuable fielders in all of baseball.
And that's such stark contrast to the teams that we remember that had a championship standard. I mean, those teams had guys who could go get it, who could make plays. Hosmer was a Gold Glover. Alex Gordon was a Platinum Glove winner in left field. Lorenzo Cain somehow never won a Gold Glove as a Royal, but he was a brilliant defensive center fielder. And yet he would shift over to right field because they had maybe even a better one on the bench in Gerard Dyson, who just couldn't hit enough to be an everyday center fielder. Alcides Escobar was an excellent defender at shortstop. Like, you have plus defenders all over the place on those teams. And those hidden margins are so important when you are not a great offensive team or you don't have great starting pitching like the Royals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got to prevent some runs, and they're really bad at preventing runs.
And to that point, and Christopher brings this up in the YouTube comments, and this is a good point, and Q brought this up after the game too. Bobby Witt doesn't get charged for an error last night when he threw to the wrong base because he didn't drop the ball, he didn't throw it into the crowd, throw it away, whatever. But mentally, that is absolutely an error. That's just making the wrong decision. And we talk about winning on the margins, especially when you're not talented enough or you don't have the depth or you don't have the pitching, hitting, whatever. That is not what the Royals are doing right now. And in this series in particular, it's been bad, but really over the course of the year, I mean, those numbers I gave you from the defensive run saved leaderboard, that's a year-long thing. You hate to be in a spot where you're just making dumb mental errors. And yeah, they're still young. Hopefully things figure out, but man, you can't be doing that at this level. And you cannot be doing it when everything else isn't working for you either.
Yeah.
Just sucks.
It's grim.
Yeah.
It's really grim.
Hopefully they can pick up the win tonight. Again, this afternoon. 5:10 first pitch. It'll be Jordan Lyles on the mound.
Is the 13th time a charm? Is this lucky 13 for Jordan Lyles? Where the Royals being 0-12 in his first 12 starts this season.
Edward Cabrera will go for the Marlins. That game will come up with pregame at 4:30, first pitch at 5:10 on the Royals radio network. I was thinking about this, though, after yesterday we talked about the potential trade packages the Royals could ship out Aroldis Chapman with. Either just Chapman or Chapman and a position player. Probably not Salvi. Chapman and Scott Barlow. That's the best group of relievers you could get from a team that's selling this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
So, yeah, there's only 4 teams right now that you can identify and say these teams are absolutely not in real contention and are looking to trade guys. There's Washington, whose best relievers are Kyle Finnegan and Carl Edwards Jr. There's Colorado, whose best relievers are, they're not going to trade Justin Lawrence probably. And the Rockies are weird. They're as likely to offer Brad Hand a 2-year contract extension as they are to trade him. But like Brad Hand, probably their most attractive trade target, or Brent Suter, I suppose, who's having a nice year as a left-hander, long relief type. Oakland, yeah, right. They don't have anybody. They don't have anybody. Anybody wants, and the Royals. And in Chapman and Barlow, you've got 2 outstanding relievers, and those guys on a team that is motivated to sell are going to be, I think, in pretty high demand.
What can you get back for those respective guys? Chapman is going to be, I think, the most valuable because there's pedigree there. He's had a really good year. The entire point was that you were going to redevelop him. Essentially, you were going to give him a couple rehab months. And you might be able to get him for 3.5 months, like we talked about yesterday, if the Royals are willing to deal him ASAP.
If you act fast, yeah.
So there's a lot of value there. If you were just going to move Chapman, and you did a great job, Dan, preparing for this, digging through some historical trades, what could you get just for Aroldis Chapman right now?
So not really historical trades, just looking last year.
Recent memory, yeah.
So I looked at last year's trade market for relief pitchers, and it wasn't really that robust. There were only two guys who were ninth inning guys or closers who got moved last year around adjacent to the trade deadline. One of them was Josh Hader. Josh Hader went from Milwaukee to San Diego in a 5-player trade. The Padres sent back their current closer, the guy who was closing games for them at the time, Taylor Rogers, who was about to become a free agent. They sent back another reliever, Dinelson Lamet, who the Brewers didn't even really want. He was kind of a make-weight, maybe a little bit, and they DFA'd him. He never even pitched for the Brewers. He's in Colorado now. And then the other returns were a top 10 prospect and another top 30 prospect. That's pretty good return for a guy in Hader who was sort of struggling last year. Like,
I don't think there's any sort of about it. He was having a down year.
Yeah, it was a down year for Josh Hader. He still had the established baseline production of, like, this is a guy that if he turns it around, you're talking about maybe the best closer in baseball.
Yep.
And he had an extra year of team control, which the Padres are currently reaping the benefits of that right now. Obviously, if you were acquiring Aroldis Chapman, you would not be getting, like, Chapman's best comp is probably Josh Hader. Like, prime Chapman and Josh Hader, there's a lot of similarities. But this is not prime Chapman, and this is not 1 year of team control left either. So probably not that much. If you're starting there, if you're thinking, oh, we're going to get top 10, 2 top 30 team prospects on MLB.com's top 30, probably not a top 10 guy coming back, unless, hey, maybe that's all you take. Maybe that's all you want. Maybe that's all you take. The other guy, old friend, Jorge Lopez.
Yep.
Jorge Lopez was closing games for Baltimore and having an excellent season, and Baltimore controversially traded him to Minnesota. Lopez also had a year of team control left, and the return, much like the return for Josh Hader, was 4 players. 3 of them were minor leaguers. 1 of them was a top 30 prospect. 2 of them were complex arms. Young guys, teenagers, basically, that Baltimore took back. And one of them was a 28-year-old rookie with an ERA in the 9s named Yennier Cano. And if you don't know that name, look him up. He's having one of the best relief seasons in baseball this year. So maybe a little bit of a diamond in the rough there. But again, the return there is 1 top 30 prospect, an active big leaguer, and a couple of teenagers. So if you're moving a guy of Chapman's caliber, maybe if you look for quantity, you're probably not getting like an upper echelon prospect from a team back. You're probably getting, a top 30 guy, maybe a couple lottery tickets, maybe a guy who's already in the major leagues and has an established major league track record. That could be what you could expect to get for Aroldis Chapman. The other 2 relievers that got moved solo last year at the deadline, Chris Martin, that was a 1-for-1 deal. Martin in his mid-30s, going to be a free agent. So not really comparable to a Chapman or a Barlow, but he brought back a quad A utility guy in Zach McKinstry, who's not even on the Cubs anymore. No. Actually having a decent year with Detroit. But
he's bounced around a lot.
Yeah, 1-for-1 deal there. And Matt Bush was traded as well at the deadline from Texas to Milwaukee, and he brought back 1 prospect, a top 20 guy, and then kind of a fringy middle infield prospect, Mark Mathias, who is no longer with the Rangers. So when you look at that, 1 reliever is probably not going to reshape your entire farm system, and goodness knows the Royals could use some talent in the pipeline. Baseball America just released their top 100 list, their midseason top 100 prospects list. There are 0 Kansas City Royals on the list. Gavin Cross was on the list before the season started. He's striking out 30% of the time in A-ball. That got him dropped from the top 100.
Yeah,
so
that won't play.
No, so the Royals, he was their first-round pick last year, so it's like there's still time for him to figure it out as a prospect. Not giving up on Gavin Cross yet, but right now, as it stands, this Royals system is one of the worst in baseball, one of the most barren in baseball with no top 100 prospects on it. So you're not going to reshape your farm system in that way. but you can probably get 2 or 3 players from somebody's minor league system, and one of them could potentially be a top 20 or top 30 prospect who can help build you some prospect depth. And that's really what the Royals need, because right now it's not just about they don't have any top 100 guys. It's they don't have a whole lot to really brag about right now or really get excited about. So that's probably what you're looking at in a realistic return for one of them. Now, what if you trade them both together? That was something that Ken Rosenthal proposed in his column yesterday. There was a thought that maybe Chapman and Barlow could be a package deal. Well, I found one trade comparable to that from last year. Only one trade at the deadline where 2 relievers were traded from one team to another team. It was not 2 elite relievers by any means. 2 guys who, one veteran guy and one younger guy. It was Anthony Bass, who's been in the news lately, maybe you've seen, and Zach Pop. Both of whom were traded from the Marlins to Toronto. And Toronto sent back to the Marlins a top 100 prospect, Jordan Grosjeans, who, if that name sounds familiar, his brother Jax played at KU. Jordan Grosjeans was a top 100 prospect going into last season, but was kind of in the middle of a down year. That's maybe why the Marlins were willing to part with him. He has not put it together at AAA currently in the Toronto system either. So, or for the in the Miami system.
Yeah, he went from Toronto to Miami.
From Toronto to Miami. Sorry, I got that backwards. But 2 relievers brought back 1 prospect, but it was a top 100 guy. And if you're going to get a lottery ticket, you may as well try and seek out one who has been that well regarded as a prospect. So, quantity may not be what you get back, but you may be able to get more quality in terms of a more highly ranked or highly touted or high ceiling prospect back in return if you packaged Chapman and Barlow together. So that might be the more prudent way to go. But if you're the Royals, I think you can also look at your farm system and say, yeah, we just need bodies.
I was going to say, so what's the best approach then? And this is a rhetorical question. I don't know if there is an answer right now, but do you maybe try to go 1-for-1 Aroldis Chapman and Scott Barlow? You try to get a single top 100 prospect out of each of those guys, or top 100-ish prospect out of each of those guys? Do you try to just add as many bodies as possible? We might not get an elite prospect, but maybe if we package these 2 guys, we get multiple lottery tickets. We get multiple guys we can restock the farm system with. I don't know what the approach is, and I don't think we have enough knowledge about what JJ Picollo wants to do with his personnel to know if he's got a type or a trend that he wants to follow. I just know this farm system is awful, at least at the top. At the very grassroots level, we've talked about the guys in A-ball this year. They're doing fine there. It looks like there's something building there. But you need strength in double and triple A too, because at some point, those guys have to get called up to replenish your major league roster.
The more raffle tickets you buy, the better shot you have of winning the raffle, right?
Right.
But if you look at the Royals' recent history, a lot of the trades that they have made in real recent memory, with Dayton Moore as their general manager, the players that the Royals sought to acquire were not complex league players, were not teenagers with a long way to go between themselves and their perceived upside. A lot of them were kind of in the Jordan Grosjeans mold, actually, of being what get called post-hype prospects, where, they might be really highly thought of and people kind of drool over their ceiling. And then the more you're exposed to them, the more you see, well, okay, these are the flaws in this player. Yeah. And maybe this player can still iron out these flaws, but it's looking more and more like these flaws are going to keep this player from maybe being the absolute best case scenario version of themselves. Players like, for instance, Brett Phillips or Jorge Lopez, both of whom were acquired in the same trade. I believe that was the Mike Moustakas trade. Players like Drew Waters, who was acquired last year by the Royals. Players like that, the Royals have kind of sought out those guys who at one time were highly touted prospects, whose shine may have dulled a little bit, who might be change of scenery candidates. And you're betting on a change of scenery being valuable, and you're still banking on some upside if you can make some tweaks. That's all well and good if you can develop those players. Did the Royals do a great job developing Brett Phillips into an everyday major league player? No, they did not. That might not be their fault. It might just be Brett Phillips strikes out too much. But they didn't get it done with Brett Phillips. Did they turn Jorge Lopez into a viable cog in their starting rotation? No, they did not. He's ended up being a pretty good reliever That's not a bad outcome for a player. He's an outstanding. He's a back of the bullpen kind of guy. But did they get him to their best case scenario? His best case scenario, the Royals? No, they did not. That might not be their fault, but they couldn't do it. Are they on track to getting the best out of Drew Waters? I don't know. Too early to tell on that one. I'll be fair. But it might be time for the Royals to start betting a little more on long-term and upside, more so than looking at those close to the majors post-hype guys, because their track record developing those guys isn't very good.
We've got to get to a break here on 580 Sports Talk. Later this hour, we'll hear from KJ Adams and Michael Jankovich. But after this commercial break, we'll play some One Gotta Go. That's coming up on 580 WIBW.
Gotta go.
Time for a quick round of One Gotta Go before we hear from KJ Adams and Michael Jankovich here on 580 Sports Talk. All right, I am using 4 names from Jason Stark's list. This actually came out a couple weeks ago, but Jason Stark's list at The Athletic of players who, if they retired right now, they are in the Hall of Fame, Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I will give you 4 names: Mike Trout, Max Scherzer, Justin Verlander, Miguel Cabrera. One of those 4 players is not allowed to make the Hall of Fame. They're capping the rest of the Hall of Fame's existence at 3 players. One of those 4 cannot get in. Who is it?
It's Mike Trout, Justin Verlander, Miguel Cabrera,
and Max Scherzer.
Trout and Cabrera are in. I mean, Mike Trout is maybe the gold standard for baseball for an entire generation, and Miguel Cabrera is over 500 home runs and 3,000 hits.
I think people have started to take Mike Trout for granted. He is still so good.
Yes.
He's having a down. Right now, his worst OPS of his career, and he's still at 855, and he's still crushing the baseball.
Yeah, had a big hit last night.
Yep.
I watched a little bit. I had the big inning going, MLB big inning going on MLB TV. That was kind of fun. There were some good games last night. There was Braves rallying to beat the Mets. There was that Cubs Angels game was a good one with the Angels coming back.
Debatably.
It was entertaining baseball for a neutral.
That's
and there was the great finish. The Cincinnati Dodger game was great. Man, Cincinnati a year and a half ago they were maybe the laughing stock of baseball, and now they've got their fan base completely energized again. That was kind of cool to see. They're not good yet per se, but
Ellie De La Cruz might be.
Yeah, Ellie De La Cruz might be. So they got the fans all the way bought in. Anyway, so it's between Scherzer and Verlander for me, and I got to bump one of those guys from the Hall of Fame. I got to say, one of you is not as good as the other. I'm going to cheat. Verlander's got 5 more wins above replacement in his career, according to Baseball Reference and Scherzer. So I'll lean Verlander's direction. Also, Verlander won an MVP, which is a pretty big deal, and also won a Cy Young at age 39, which is pretty remarkable too. I will say it is Verlander over Scherzer. Just a little bit of a longer track record, bit more accomplished in terms of the awards, but. Boy, that's harsh on Mad Max to say, no Cooperstown for you.
I will turn it around. I'm going to say Scherzer in, Verlander out. Here's the reason why. One, Max Scherzer might hurt me if I don't pick him. He might actually try to hurt me. Secondly, I have been a true blue Justin Verlander hater since he came up with the Tigers. So he's the pick.
Only one of those players has ever had nude photos of himself leaked. Because only one of them was married to a Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover model.
That is true.
So, and took pictures with her posing in a mirror.
I get it.
Like sorority sisters. It was a wild look.
What's yours for today?
4 best players in the NBA Finals: Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo for the Heat, Nikola Jokic, and Jamal Murray for the Nuggets. You can only have 3 of those players to start your new team with. One got to go.
I'm taking Bam out. One, because there's redundancy, and I'm obviously not dumping Jokic. And also, Bam is extremely important to the Heat, and his defense is generally pretty good, and he can score. I'm just not a big Bam guy. He's obviously a good player, and he's important to that team, but I don't know. I also have seen him miss way too many layups for a guy that size. So I'm out on Bam. I'm definitely not giving up Jimmy. I'm not giving up the best player in all of basketball. And I've liked Jamal Murray since he was a college player. So Bam's the easy choice for me there.
Yeah, it's probably Bam for me too. Although I think him playing the 4 with Nikola Jokic would be a very hard basketball team to score on.
Very hard.
That he'd be better, like what Denver has at the 4, Aaron Gordon. That makes more sense for them because Gordon can hit shots and Bam is not a shooter. He's not going to hit a corner 3 for you and help you in the way that Aaron Gordon is capable of. But defensively, Nuggets defensive lineup with Bam next to Jokic would be improved over what they have. And what they have is bad, but it would definitely be improved. So it's no disrespect to Bam, who's obviously played great. He's played like Jokic, kind of in the first 2 games, being a distributor and scoring in this series. But he'd be the guy I'd have to leave out there. Even though I like Bam more than I like Jimmy Butler, but if I'm starting a team, I could play Butler at the 3, I could play Jamal at the 1, I could play Joker at the 5, and be pretty sad.
We're going to take a break. We'll hear from a couple Kansas Jayhawks next on 580 Sports Talk. this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. We're going to take you guys back to some conversations that I had earlier today with a couple of Kansas Jayhawks, KJ Adams and walk-on Michael Jankovich. Both spoke at Brett Ballard's Washburn Youth Basketball Camp today. Got to chat with the guys a little bit about this upcoming season, what this offseason has been like, all the transfers, and a lot more. So we will start things off with the reigning most improved player in the Big 12. Here is KU junior forward KJ Adams.
This year feels like you could really you could make an even bigger impact, if you're ready for the role.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they use me. They could use me back at the 5 again, or maybe in the 4 again. But I'm just really excited just to play with this different group of teammates and just see what we can do.
I want to ask you about Coach Self. Travis Goff told me the other day he feels like he's re-energized, has more energy than ever. Have you noticed that? Does he seem to be completely revitalized after missing a few games there?
Yeah, of course. He's just really excited. You could see it through how he talks to the newcomers. Like, you can just see he has a different type of energy about him, and I think he's just ready to start off the season more than anybody.
Saw the video of I think Hunter hitting a 3 on Twitter the other day. Have you worked out with him, practiced with him at all? Was that the first one, or what have you seen in his game in the last week or so?
Yeah, we've had one practice and something with the camp. So he has a really wide game. He can shoot. He can post up. His baskets just feel like they fall in every time. So he has a really wide and versatile game. So it's going to be really cool to see him play with him this year.
How important is it to have Kevin back, right? I know you didn't know if he's going to come back or not, and having him on this squad this year, how important is that for this year?
Well, that was an amazing thing that he came back, because he's going to be our anchor this year. He's an amazing defensive presence, and he's just going to help us in overall with the teammate, the culture, just everything about basketball this year is just going to be through Kevin.
Did you know he was coming back, or was that kind of a surprise to you?
It was a surprise to me. When they posted on KU, that's when I figured out. I bet a bunch of y'all figured out before me. And he called me, and then he was like, "Yeah, I just want to surprise you." I was like, "It's a good surprise, but you can't just I was waking up in the morning ready to work out, and I see that."
You were pretty fired up for the workout then.
Yeah, I was. I was really excited.
There's a lot of renovations going on right now with Allen and different places on campus. Have you been able to see anything with Allen Fieldhouse at all? Any changes that you've noticed?
No, I haven't seen anything about Allen or anything. I really don't even know too much about the renovations.
Talking about coming back and, play the 4, play the 5, do any number of things. How excited are you to have another year of chemistry to build with Juan, with Kevin, and with all the guys coming back? How important is that to you, most improved player in the conference, and then get another year of experience with these guys?
Yeah, I'm really excited. It was kind of a hard summer, a hard year to lead up to here, just because we didn't know how many players we were going to get. We didn't know who we were going to get. So I'm just excited to just have another year with these guys. It's just cool to have all these new faces and kind of re-energize the program.
What's the transition for you personally been like to go from just a couple minutes a game your freshman year, win the national championship? Last year, all of a sudden, you're still the young guy, but you have this much bigger role. What's it been like this offseason for you to now be one of the veterans, one of the most experienced guys?
Yeah, I was definitely spoiled last year, so it's going to be hard to try to figure out what I'm going to do this year. But I think just trusting the coaching staff and just whatever they plug me, how many minutes they play me, just be grateful that I'm allowed to play for this amazing program.
I know you were talking earlier about being comfortable playing the 5, playing the 4. Are there elements of either that you're most excited to get back to? 5, that short roll game was working so well for you guys last year. The 4, you can spread it out a little bit more. Is there anything about either of the two that gets you more excited to have a more versatile role this year?
Yeah, I'm just excited. It's going to be a challenge to try to expand my game, and it's really hard, but those are the best things to do, just to work on your game and just try to expand it. So I'm really just excited just to try to expand my overall game.
I know there's obviously a bunch of new guys joining this year, but there are very few players in the country who transfer with a reputation like Hunter Dickinson has. He's all Big Ten kind of player. He was an All-American a couple of years ago. What have you thought about? How much have you talked to him about what you guys will be able to do on the court when you're there together?
Yeah, it's going to be amazing. We're going to have a really good inside game, and he brings a good presence to the outside game. So just both on the court together, I think it's going to be really fun. And we've been talking about that ever since he got here.
Last year in the NCAA tournament, I think once we got to the Elite Eight, I think 4 of the 8 teams had an average age of 22 or older.
Yeah.
Older teams were winning so much. You guys all of a sudden have multiple 6th-year or seniors on the team, 5th-year guys, 4th-year guys. Do you think that's going to be an asset to you guys to be an older group, a more experienced group?
Yeah, of course. Even the national championship team was a veteran-based team. We had so many veterans and a lot of 4-year, 5 guys, 6-year guys even. So I think that helps just because of the veteran-based team. Like last year, we kind of had some veterans. Like we had like Jalen and Kevin. But this year it's really based because everybody hasn't been in Ken's program, but they've been in a program in college for a long time.
Speaking of Jalen specifically, he's obviously going through the draft process right now. We worked out with the Warriors the other day.
Yeah.
I know he's worked out with a bunch of teams. Have you or any of the guys kept up with him, and has he kept you in the loop of who he's worked out with, what the process has been like?
Yeah, not too much. We try to keep a lot of that aspect out of our conversations just because they go through it every day. But we keep up with Grady and Jalen all the time, just not really in the basketball mindset that much.
Is it exciting for you, even if you're not talking about it a lot, to know, like, dang, Grady might be a lottery pick. Like, this might be a top 10, top 12 pick. Is that exciting for you guys to see someone you got so close to have that kind of success?
Yeah, of course. It's the best feeling ever just to know the guys that are doing it, to play your heart out with them, and especially like Ochai and Christian, to see them get drafted. That was an amazing feeling. So I think I'm going to have the same feeling this upcoming year.
Yeah, what's that like seeing Christian be now just a couple of games away from possibly winning an NBA championship? What's that been like?
No, it's crazy, especially knowing him. He was my roommate right next to me, so just seeing him thrive and do what he does is amazing. He's a little mad at me right now since I'm a Heat fan, but it's just good to see him play well.
Game 3 tonight, Heat going to win?
I hope so. I'm a Heat fan, but I hope Christian has 20, but I hope the Heat win still.
When you see him on the court, because I'm sure you guys have watched plenty of the games and watched him this whole season, when you see him dunk or steal a ball and scream at someone, does that remind you of home a little bit? Like, oh yeah, that's the Christian we know.
Yeah, of course. I always know the real Christian, but he always brings it out sometimes, so it's good to see it. With
all the new guys who are coming in, and I know some guys aren't even on campus yet, is there anyone in particular who you feel like you've gotten especially close to so far?
Yeah, I spent a little bit of time with El Marco. I've kind of spent a lot of time kind of a neutral with everybody because we all kind of hang out a little bit. I think we kind of hang out more than last year's team as a group total. Like everybody kind of hangs out a lot together.
I just am a Heat fan, though.
Heat fan, Dwayne Wade was my all-time favorite player. So I've been watching that era of the Heat for a long time and just stuck with it because Dwayne Wade's just been my personal favorite player.
So when LeBron went there, you were like, whoa, here we go.
Yeah, I was a little jealous because I wanted Dwayne Wade to get all that shine. So.
That's KJ Adams speaking earlier today at the Washburn Youth Basketball Camp. You feeling okay with that? Being a Heat fan?
Yeah, that's fine. I just hope he's real disappointed later tonight in about 7 hours.
Let's also hear from KU senior walk-on guard Michael Jankovich.
You've been one of the veterans on this program for a couple of years now, but this year is a lot different. I mean, it's you, Kevin, KJ, and Dwan all coming back. Everyone else is brand new. How has this offseason been different than the last couple for you with this program, just seeing so many new faces come in?
Yeah, I think it's been really different, actually. Coming back, we just got back last weekend, so, still kind of trying to get to know everybody, which is a different thing. We've usually had, these 6, 7, core guys returning. And so it's been a little different, trying to figure out people's games and people's personalities even off the court. And so, it's been a little bit of an adjustment, but I mean, I love our guys so far. And I think we're going to be, headed for big things this year.
With the transfer portal, and there's just a constant stream of someone's visiting or, the coaches are talking to someone new. What is your role in that, or you and the rest of the guys? Like, are you reaching out to these other, Hunter, for example, when KU is recruiting him? Do you reach out to these guys and talk to them, or is it more so we'll let the coaches do their thing and we'll talk to them when they get here?
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit of both, kind of as an older guy, I've had to take more of a role and, kind of helping with the recruiting process and, kind of talking to these kids and, telling them what Lawrence and what KU is about. And that's pretty easy to do. It kind of speaks for itself. But, they've kind of expected me to do a little bit more, and it's been great. So Hunter, I was, kind of the host for his visit. And so kind of showed him around and taught him about a little bit of what Lawrence is about. And, he ended up coming here. So I guess it worked.
with Hunter in particular, and I know he's not the only veteran coming in, but I mean, he comes in with a bigger reputation than a lot of transfer guys have. I mean, all Big Ten kind of player, huge statistics and all of that. What is it like to have a player of that caliber coming in and joining this year?
I think he's going to be a big help to our team. We lost some key pieces last year going to the draft, and then, of course, lost some transfers that had a role in our success last year. And so, just having him off the bat, kind of knowing what we can expect, I think it's going to be huge for us.
I think most people, Coach Self, in fact, thought that Kevin was going to stay in the NBA draft this year. He decides to come back at the last moment. What was that like for you guys when you found out that Kevin was coming back?
We were thrilled because, with all the other pieces leaving from last year, it was big just to have, one other returning guy coming back because we only had, a couple. So it was huge having him back. I mean, he was great for us last year, and we hope he can continue on that.
What's the summer been like for you guys? I know it's a lot of working out, pickup games, just trying to meet all these new guys. So for you, having been through this so many times now, what has this offseason been like?
Yeah, I think, all that stuff. We're working out, working camps right now. And I think it's just trying to get to even know the new guys. We've got a bunch of different pieces coming together. So we're kind of, just trying to form some sort of chemistry off the court especially. And we're going to hope that transfers on the court too.
Have you read into any of the hype about you guys this year? I mean, there's a lot of talk about preseason #1 and all this. Have you read into that at all?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I've seen some stuff on social media, but, it doesn't really matter. It's so early. And so, we kind of got to go out there and produce for it to mean anything for us.
Have you met all the guys? You talked about getting to know everybody. You got like a not completely, but almost completely new roster compared to last year. You think you've got to know a few of these guys in the last week or so?
Yeah, a few of them. Some of them still aren't even here yet. So, I mean, I've met everybody, but, haven't got to spend much time around some of these guys. So, it's going to be kind of a process learning everybody, personality and, kind of their game on the court as well.
We talked about Bill, and he's Travis Goff told me that he feels like he's as energized as ever. Have you noticed that? Does he seem to have even more juice, if you want to call it that, than he did before he had to miss a few games?
Yeah, I would say the answer to the question is yes, but which is hard to do for him. I mean, he's pretty juiced every year, but I mean, I think he's excited about this year. Kind of ended on a sour note last year, so I think we're ready to, kind of restart and get ready for this season.
What do you feel like your goal is personally when you go in? And obviously, you're trying to be a leader, right? But you're in a weird spot to be a leader within that, right? How do you go about that, or what's your goal with this season?
Yeah, so I think this year it'll be a little bit easier actually because this will be my 5th year, and so I've had all this kind of experience. Be easy for me to, kind of share my experience with them and, kind of get them acquainted into what Kansas is really about and the culture that we have here.
Well, what sold Hunter, man? You said you were the one giving him the tour, right? What was the selling ticket that you got him to come to KU?
Man, I don't know. I think Kansas speaks for itself. You take one look in the field house and take a look at all the banners and all the guys that have come through there. It's, it's a pretty great place. So I think it speaks for itself. And I'm sure Coach Self had a big say in a little bit of that.
It wasn't just you?
Yeah, it wasn't just me. Can't take all the credit for that one.
Talking about Coach Self and, coming back from the health scare at the end of last year, what was it like for you and for the rest of the guys that, hey, suddenly we're in the biggest games of the year and our leader's not there? What was that like for you guys to go through that?
Yeah, it was definitely, a hard thing to do just because it was so sudden. So we didn't really prepare for it, obviously. But, our staff did a great job of getting us prepared, kind of shorthanded and on short notice like that. But, Coach Self prepares us the entire season. So it's one of those things where obviously it was hard during the game. He can't be there to make adjustments and whatnot, but, he's there the whole season. So kind of his work is already done, so to speak. But that being said, it was still tough having him not there.
How much does a game like that, speaking specifically of one against Arkansas, close loss, end of the season, end of the NCAA tournament with that, how much does that reinvigorate you? How much does that reinvigorate this team, or at least the guys who are coming back and the coaching staff to, take another step forward this offseason into the year?
Yeah, I think it does a lot to motivate everybody, I graduated this year, and especially after that last game, I really wanted to come back, was motivated to kind of, make up for that loss, I guess. And, I know the staff and the returners think the same thing as well. We all want to come out here and have success. We've done it at the highest level. We won a national championship 2 years ago. And so it was almost a letdown, kind of last year. And so we kind of want to make up for that this year.
That is KU senior Michael Jankovich, as well as KJ Adams, speaking earlier today at the Washburn Youth Basketball Camp. We'll take a break here at the top of the hour for our national and local news. We are off at 4:30 today due to Royals baseball, so we'll come back. We've got a final word, some headlines. We'll get to your texts as well, 785-272-9429, as well as your YouTube comments on our YouTube channel, Sports on 580 WIBW. It's all next hour on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. Super early Royals game today. 5:10 first pitch, 4:30 pregame on the Royals radio network. So we are done extra early. We're back for a full show tomorrow, 3 until 6. Rick Peterson will join us, as will Tim Fitzgerald, for our high school whip around and Wildcat wrap up, respectively. We will also take your texts throughout this remaining half hour, not even a half an hour at this point. 785-272-9429 is the text line number. Also, you can jump into the comment section on YouTube, where the name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Let us know what you're thinking about anything we're talking about on today's show. We've got a final word coming up in just a little bit, but since we are done this half hour, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for this Wednesday afternoon. I've got one with a little bit of a local flair for you to lead things off. One of the best high school basketball players in the state over the past 2 years, but especially this past season, Bo Aldridge from Highland Park took an unofficial visit to KU yesterday. Very interesting development there. Now, no inside knowledge about how likely anything is or if there's going to be a reclassification or whatever. We do know that Bo reclassified after this high school, or really right before the end of the high school basketball regular season, to the class of 2024. Currently, he is scheduled to take a prep school year down in Florida.
Right.
But KU suddenly has an opening on the roster for a freshman would be great after Chris Johnson asked out of his national letter of intent. So Bo Aldridge, being a local kid, taking an unofficial visit yesterday. I heard word he may have been back on campus today as well, in fact. I don't know, again, if anything is going to happen there. I do know I've gotten to see plenty of Bo Aldridge play basketball, and there might need to be some refinement to get on the court at the Big 12 level, but the athleticism is absolutely there. The bounce is absolutely there. And I think as a, you're probably not going to play much as a freshman, maybe even a redshirt candidate. I mean, if he was already going to reclassify, maybe there's a redshirt that opens up, use the scholarship there. I don't know. I just know it is really cool for a Topeka or a Highland Park product, a Topeka kid, to get that kind of look from KU. And if it works out, incredible. But ever since he reclassified and committed to, and I cannot recall the name of the prep school off the top of my head, Bo has gotten some legit interest from SEC and Big 12 programs. I know he holds an offer from Oklahoma for 2024. I want to say it's Ole Miss that has shown interest in him as well for the class of 2024. So he's getting some major, major looks now, and KU is the latest one. But Bo Aldridge, Topeka's own, took a visit to KU this week.
It asks an interesting question about a program like Kansas. When you look at the roster that they're going to put out next year and how different it looks from the roster that they assembled for last season, and how many guys left the team, not because they graduated or their eligibility was lapsed or that they were all headed to the NBA draft, but just the opportunity at Kansas was not the right one for them, or was not one that appealed to them any longer. Zuby Ejiofor, MJ Rice, Ernest Uday, high caliber basketball players, guys who can help a basketball team. Bobby Pettifer, all of them, really everybody who transferred out of the program, all saw the floor, all got on the floor at Kansas, but decided to pursue opportunities elsewhere. And so from Kansas's perspective, you put some work into recruiting those kids and developing those kids, and you don't get to bear that fruit now. Whatever Zuby Ejiofor and Ernest Uday and MJ Rice and those guys are going to become, they're not going to become that at the University of Kansas. Why not then, as you seek to fill out your roster, because you still need to win with upper echelon talent. You need to recruit that talent, or you need to find that talent in the transfer portal, or you need to develop that talent. Why not look close to home at a young man who's a KU fan, who's got, like you said, the athletic ability, and might be willing to redshirt, to stick it out through a year where they're not eligible, to stick it out maybe through another year or two where they don't play a whole lot, for the opportunity to help the program down the road as they develop as a player. You're going to need more. You're going to need still what they call program players, and not guys like end of the bench towel waivers, either practice players. You need program players. You need guys who buy into the program's culture, who are leaders over the course of their 3 years, 4 years, 5 years on campus. And attracting those players and keeping those players gets harder and harder, I think, in this era of college basketball. And so to get a leg up for a player like that, maybe it helps if they're 30 minutes from home. Maybe it helps if they're a lifelong fan of your program and willing to do that and put in that work. I think it makes a lot of sense for Kansas to show this interest, and it would be a really neat thing if it does happen for both parties, I think.
And I think you bring up a point, too, about guys who just, they saw greener grass elsewhere. They thought they could get a better opportunity somewhere else. Maybe something comes up and you have a guy who you think might be a program guy, but they get an offer to go play right away at another Power 5 or high major, and they move. And that's the world of college basketball now. But if, and I don't know, I have not talked to Bo. I don't know exactly what he's looking for. If he still wants to do the prep year and this is just a due diligence thing by both parties, I have no idea. But if there was hypothetically a local player who I'm almost certain is a KU fan, like you pointed out, who says, I would like to go to this program. I want to play for Bill Self. I want to be a part of this. I want to be close to home. I'm fine redshirting, or I'm fine using my freshman year to just sit on the bench and develop, whatever. Why wouldn't you be interested? And if I may bring this is kind of a meathead take here, but who is the lowest ranked recruit in KU's 2018 class who got a scholarship?
Ochai
Agbaji was the most outstanding player of a Final Four, the best player on a national championship team, and was a consensus All-American, unanimous Big 12 Player of the Year. Do you know who was the lowest ranked recruit in the KU class of 2013, a year that included Andrew Wiggins, Joel Embiid, Wayne Selden, among others?
I actually don't know that.
It's Frank Mason, who, as Bill Self said, Senior Day 2017 might mean as much to Kansas as any player he has ever coached. And that is true. That is 100% true. He's one of the best players in program history. He'll get his number in the rafters one day. Sometimes those guys end up being very important pieces. And again, I have no idea what the inner workings of this are. I'm just saying it's cool for Bo. It's really cool for the KU program. And frankly, I hope it works out. I think that'd be really cool. And it would be awesome for Highland Park, too, if we're being frank.
Oh, absolutely. To have those kids in that program or who grow up for the whole city, to be able to say, hey, he grew up like me. He grew up in this city, and this is where he's at. He's playing basketball at Kansas. If he can do it, why can't I? Like, what a cool thing that would be.
I don't know if it will work out, but I really hope it does.
First headline for me as we whip through our 5A Sports Talk headlines in the short and final half hour of the show. The biggest sports story of the day, perhaps the greatest soccer player of all time, certainly the greatest of his generation, is coming to MLS. Lionel Messi will move to Major League Soccer side Inter Miami after he has departed Paris Saint-Germain, which has been his club for the last 3 years. Messi made the announcement in an interview today saying, in Spanish, translated here to English, I have made the decision that I am going to Miami. I still don't have it agreed upon 100%. A few things are needed, but we decided to continue my path there. After winning the World Cup and not being able to return to Barcelona, the club that he grew up in, essentially, and that he became a global superstar on, it was my turn to go to the League of the United States to live football in another way and to enjoy the day-to-day more. Obviously with the same responsibility and desire to play well and do things well as always, but in a calmer way. Different way to sum this up comes from the 1998 Jay-Z track Reservoir Dogs, where guest rapper Jadakiss once said, "Gangsters don't die, they get chubby and move to Miami." So do soccer legends, as it turns out.
I also saw someone say that after spending an entire career dodging his taxes, retiring to Miami just makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No state tax in Florida. He'll be very glad about that. There were rumors of a $1 billion offer. That's right. Billion with a B for Messi to join Saudi Arabian club Al Hilal. And there were persistent rumors that he would return to Barcelona, but Barcelona can't make the financials work because they are brokety broke. And
which is wild, by the way.
Yes, they have been so badly mismanaged financially, just piling debt on top of debt on top of debt. Like it is a disaster class.
Not just an American problem, folks.
Nope, it's not. But yes, so Lionel Messi's coming to the MLS. He is going to be eligible to join Inter Miami at the transfer deadline, which is I believe this month, and could be eligible to play for the club within a couple of weeks. Messi would not be making a trip to Kansas City to play against Sporting Kansas City. They are not on the schedule for Inter Miami from this point forward. So if you're hoping to see Lionel Messi, and we're hoping maybe he'd come to Kansas City, that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It will be fascinating to see some of these, single-purpose soccer-only stadiums in the United States. They are not going to be big enough suddenly for teams who are playing host to Inter Miami's games, because there is going to be a major demand to see. This is the rough equivalent of what it was like when Pele came to the United States playing the North American Soccer League in the 70s, with the distinct difference that now people in America like soccer and want to watch it played live. And there are lots of American cities that have soccer now. So, pretty big deal. It will be interesting to see how Messi performs in MLS. Spoiler alert: he's going to dominate without exerting too much.
I was going to say, if he wants to, he will.
Yes, he can get out of shape. He can get chubby, like Jadakiss said. He can get chubby. It doesn't matter. He's just going to score free kicks and just do whatever he wants to the legion of future gym teachers playing center back for some of these MLS clubs.
Did you see the rumors about some of the ways MLS is going to compensate him along with just getting paid by the club?
Yes, there's a rumor that they're going to give him a share of whatever new subscriber dollars the league gets on their Apple TV Plus subscriber offer.
Yeah.
Essentially, all of the games, and you know this if you're an MLS fan. If you don't, you may not know this. All of the league's games are broadcast on Apple TV Plus.
Mm-hmm.
You buy a subscription. Apparently, there weren't a lot of people buying subscriptions. But if Lionel Messi is going to play, there may be a new worldwide interest in buying subscriptions to Apple TV Plus to watch these soccer matches.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a thought that because, first of all, Inter Miami is over the league salary cap, and number two, Inter Miami only has but so much money to make Lionel Messi paid what he's worth as a player. I do believe that there could be maybe some sense in offering Messi some more money from the league's coffers to enrich the league.
Also saw a rumor, and I don't know how much of this is true or going to happen or whatever. Also saw that a larger cut than normal of jersey sales might be going Messi's way, which, by the way, every single kid between the ages of 4 and 18 in the greater Miami area is going to own a Messi jersey, a Messi Inter Miami jersey. Every single one.
They're pink and black. They're kind of cool, actually.
They're very Miami.
I don't look good in pink. I know this, but and they look sharp.
Next headline for me today. Oh, well, here's a breaking headline. We're going to get to the playoff roundup in just a minute. We've got a piece of breaking news from Chris Haynes of TNT and Bleacher Report, their NBA insider. The Phoenix Suns are waiving future Hall of Fame point guard Chris Paul. He will be one of the top free agents this offseason. He is also old. His knees don't really work, and he has never won anything of any importance.
Rat.
Yeah,
Good
he
riddance.
also is a dirty player and is
he's a rat.
Yeah.
Groin punching rat. Leave the Western Conference. Go win. I mean, his teams are always really good in the regular season, so wherever he winds up, I'm sure
they'll win 55 games.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Does he go to the Lakers? They could use a point guard to play with LeBron James.
David Stern will literally be rolling over in his grave. Almost certainly. He's still a good player.
He has lots of friends in the league, like good players who are his friends, and I'm sure some of them might recruit him. Maybe he goes to, I don't know, the 76ers, play with James Harden again. I don't know. I don't know what makes sense for this washed, always injured, formerly great point guard.
I regret to inform you, he is a Chicago Bull. Can't shoot the three. Old. He's a Bull. Any other headlines for you?
Yeah, let's get to the
playoffs
roundup. It'll be a quick edition today, the playoff roundup, the segment within a segment here on 580 Sports Talk Headlines. Game 3 of the NBA Finals is tonight in Miami. The Heat and the Nuggets are deadlocked at 1 game apiece. The Nuggets are 2.5-point favorites across most of the Vegas sports books. They better win tonight, because if they don't, Meltdown May will be expanding to early June, I'm afraid.
How nervous are you?
Not nervous that the Nuggets are no longer the better team. Nervous that the Heat might just shoot 60% from 3 the rest of the series.
It feels unsustainable that they are shooting this well, but they've also been doing it for almost 2 months. By the way, the NBA playoffs are way too long. There's no need for there to be 3 days between games. Absolutely not.
It feels like Denver just has to, like, their solution for having lost game 2 is just like play better, like pay more attention on defense, don't foul 3-point shooters, like those little things that caused them to lose by all of 3 points in game 2. Like, just tighten those things up and they should be in good shape.
The team that needs to keep adjusting and adapting more so, at least to this point, I think is still Miami. The thing I'm interested in is, does Kevin Love start again? And I know that sounds wild in the year 2023 that I'm worried about Kevin Love being in the starting lineup, but legitimately, things changed for Miami. They were a better team with him on the floor.
Yeah,
now, granted,
their starting lineup outplayed the Denver starting five, which is a thing that just never happens to Denver. Usually their starting five, they're way up in those minutes because those are Nikola Jokic's minutes. But that wrinkle did change things for the Heat. It meant the Nuggets couldn't play the bully ball that was successful in game 1. It also let Jimmy Butler guard Jamal Murray, which threw him off a rhythm a little bit. But I think having seen that wrinkle, Denver should adjust back to it, have a counterpunch, make Kevin Love defend. Like that's going to be the biggest thing you have to do. Make Kevin Love defend.
That sounds like his UCLA scouting report.
And look, if Jimmy Butler's going to guard Jamal Murray, fine, make him work, because at the end of the day, they need Jimmy Butler to be impactful for all 48 minutes of the game to win. And he was a little too fresh in the fourth quarter for my liking in game 2. They got to run him ragged a little bit more. Just if Denver plays better, they'll win.
I think that's
unless the Heat shoot 78% from 3, which again, maybe they will. I don't know. I'm sick to my stomach at the thought.
I've talked a lot this postseason about how much I like Eric Spoelstra. Mike Malone's a pretty darn good coach too.
I think so.
I think the Nuggets get this one back tonight. I think they'll take the series lead. That does it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll wrap up this half-length edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word after this.
In conclusion, you better wrap it up.
Wrapping up a brief edition of 580 Sports Talk with a brief final word, Dan.
I have very little in my brain other than Game 3 of tonight's NBA Finals. It's a problem. It's too bad the show doesn't go all the way till 6. There'd be more time. I'm just going to sit around and twiddle my thumbs until tip-off tonight in 3 hours. Please win, Nuggets. Please. For my mental health. Please.
Final word for me today. You know what? I'll go back to our headline segment as well. We did the playoff roundup. I know we talked a lot about Topeka's own Bo Aldridge. He was getting a visit at KU, and I've said it a few times now because I want to make sure this is very clear. I do not know anything about the inner workings of this visit, but I hope it works out. I hope there's a spot for him on the KU roster. I hope it's an interesting situation for him because I like watching him play, and I obviously like KU. And it'd be really cool for this city, for that community, and for a really talented basketball player as well if that worked out. Someone who I believe is a KU fan too. I do hope that works out for him at the University of Kansas. That is going to do it already. We're already done on this edition of 580 Sports Talk.
We just got here.
We just started. I barely got a warm-up in for this show. We've got Royals baseball pregame coverage coming up here at the bottom of the hour. First pitch is set for 5:10, series finale against the Marlins. We're back tomorrow for a full show. Tim Fitzgerald will stop by, as will Rick Peterson. Don't forget to check out the podcast online at 580wibw.com. But until that full show tomorrow, for Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Dworzinski. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Enjoy Royals baseball. We'll talk to you on Thursday.